They didn't even look me in the eye when I walked in the house that day. My mom barely glanced up from her magazine, and my dad stayed glued to the news like I wasn't even there. The silence wasn't new, but it still stung. Every time I came home, it was like walking into a room where I didn't belong. My parents made it clear, in 1,000 little ways, that I was the one who had failed. The one who didn't measure up. The one who wasted their sacrifices. Ever since I dropped out of college, they'd practically written me off. They used to whisper about me like I was a disappointment they didn't want to claim. But I never corrected them. I let them think what they wanted. I stopped trying to prove anything a long time ago. That weekend, I came home for a family dinner. My brother, Adrian, was bringing his new fiancée to meet the family. He was always the golden child, the smart one, the achiever, the son who did everything right. Top of his class, corporate job, polished smile, perfect life. I could already imagine how the evening would go, Dad praising Adrian's latest promotion, Mom fawning over his fiancée, and me, sitting at the corner of the table, invisible. I didn't dress up. Just wore my usual black shirt and jeans. I didn't need to impress anyone. The doorbell rang and Mom rushed to the front like she was welcoming royalty. I stayed in the kitchen, sipping water, not really in the mood for small talk or fake smiles. Then she walked in. Adrian's fiancée. She had this quiet confidence about her, like someone used to being in rooms where she mattered. She shook hands with everyone, smiling politely, but when her eyes landed on me, something changed. "You're his brother?" she asked, a bit surprised. I nodded. "Yeah. I'm Nate." She stared for a moment, like she was trying to remember something. Then, her expression shifted. I saw recognition flash across her face. "Wait," she said, stepping a little closer. "You're the CEO?" The room went dead quiet. Mom stopped mid-sentence. Dad finally looked up. Even Adrian's smile faltered. I didn't respond right away. I could feel every eye in the room on me. The air felt heavier somehow, like the weight of 100 unspoken things had suddenly dropped on the dinner table. "You know him?" Adrian asked, confused. She nodded slowly, almost stunned. "He owns the tech firm my company just partnered with. The one everyone's talking about." Mom blinked. "Tech firm? What do you mean, CEO?" I looked at her, then at my brother. Part of me wanted to say it out loud, just to watch their faces shift. But another part of me, one I'd trained over years of being overlooked, just stayed quiet. And then, just as I opened my mouth to speak, my phone buzzed. The name on the screen made me freeze. And in that second, I knew everything was about to change. I stared at the phone screen, my heart pounding faster than I expected. The name blinking, there wasn't just any contact. It was someone from a world I thought I had left far behind. For a moment, I hesitated, caught between the past I had buried and the new life that no one in my family seemed to know about. Adrian's fiancée watched me closely, her eyes sharp as if trying to read the story behind that silent moment. The others waited, confused, their faces a mix of curiosity and doubt. I swallowed hard and finally slid the phone back into my pocket, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "That's a long story," I said quietly. Adrian frowned. "You mean you never told us you're running a company? How is that even possible? Mom, Dad, did you know?" My parents exchanged a quick glance, their expressions unreadable. It was like I just stepped into a play where everyone else had memorized the lines except me. My mom's voice was tight. "We thought you were still trying to find your way." I wanted to laugh, bitter and low. Finding my way? I had been doing more than that. But how could I explain it now? How could I tell them that while they counted me out, I was building something real, something that could change everything? The truth was, the moment I dropped out of college, everything changed. The shame, the disappointment, it was like a wall slammed down between me and my family. I didn't hear from them for months. Every call I made was ignored or ended with a sigh. But I wasn't ready to give up on myself. I moved to a small apartment in the city, worked late nights at a startup, learn everything I could about business and technology. I spent years grinding, failing, and sometimes wondering if I was fooling myself. But slowly, very slowly, things started to shift. I developed a software idea, something no one expected from me, and it took off. But I never told my family. I didn't want to hear the pity or the disbelief. I wanted to succeed quietly, on my own terms. And now, here I was, my brother's fiancée knew before they did. The very people who had written me off as a failure were stunned into silence by a name they barely recognized. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I could see Adrian's mind racing. He was trying to piece this new version of me with the brother he thought he knew. The golden boy versus the dropout. It was like two worlds crashing. She, the fiancée, kept her eyes on me. "You should have told us," she said softly, but there was no judgment in her voice. Just surprise and maybe a little respect. I nodded. I wasn't ready. Not for this family. The dinner continued, but the mood had changed. Every conversation circled back to that one moment, like a stone dropped into still water. No one could ignore the ripples. Later that night, after everyone left, I sat alone in my childhood room, now more of a guest room than anything else. I thought about the phone call I had ignored earlier that day. The message from the mysterious client who wanted to meet tomorrow. This could be the opportunity one had been waiting for, or a trap that could unravel everything I'd built. Memories flooded back. The late nights working on code, the endless rejections from investors, the times I cried alone in my tiny apartment. All the moments my family said I was worthless, a failure, someone who would never amount to anything. Now, the game had changed, but the stakes felt even higher. How do you prove yourself to people who have already made up their minds? How do you fight for your place when the ones who should believe in you the most are the loudest in their doubt? And what about Adrian's fiancée? Why did she know me? Did she recognize me from somewhere? Was it just because of business, or was there something more? The questions gnawed at me as I prepared for the next day. I knew this was just the beginning. The fragile balance between who I was and who they thought I was had shifted. And nothing would ever be the same again. I looked out the window into the night, city lights flickering like distant stars, and wondered how many more surprises awaited me. Would this be the moment I finally stepped out of the shadows? Or the moment everything came crashing down? The answer was waiting, just out of reach. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to face it yet. The next morning, I woke up with a restless feeling in my chest, the kind that makes your skin itch and your mind spin with what ifs. I kept thinking about that dinner, about the look on Adrian's fiancée's face, the way she said, "You're the CEO?" As if she'd found a secret treasure or a hidden puzzle piece. What did she really know about me? And why hadn't she said anything before? I didn't want to face the family again just yet, but there was no escaping it. The house was still the same place where I felt small and invisible, and now, more than ever, I felt like a stranger in my own life. When I walked into the kitchen, my parents were already there. My dad was reading the paper, his face unreadable. Mom was unusually quiet, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. I sat down and tried to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk," I said, surprising even myself. My dad finally looked up. "About what?" "About all this." I gestured between us. "The things you said? The things you never said? About me?" My mom's eyes flickered with something. Was it guilt? Or maybe regret? "We just want what's best for you," she said softly. "We never wanted to see you fail." I shook my head. "You already decided I was a failure. Long before I gave up college, long before I started this company." Silence stretched between us like a thin wire ready to snap. "I don't expect an apology," I said. "But you should know, I'm not the person you think I am. And I'm done hiding." Dad's voice was low, almost a whisper. "If what she said is true, why didn't you tell us? Why keep it a secret?" "Because," I said, "I needed to believe in myself before I could ask for your belief." Before they could respond, my phone buzzed again. I glanced at it, It was that mysterious client's message reminding me of our meeting later that day. The tension in the room thickened. I could see the unspoken questions in their eyes. Who was I meeting? What was this business really about? Later that afternoon, as I prepared for the meeting, Adrian's fiancée reached out unexpectedly. "Can we talk?" she asked, her tone gentle but serious. I hesitated but agreed. We met at a quiet cafe, away from prying ears and judgmental eyes. Over coffee, she finally revealed what she knew. "My name is Claire," she said. "I work in corporate partnerships, and your company's been on our radar for months. But it's not just business. I've heard stories, rumors about you. About how you disappeared, how you struggled." I looked away, feeling the weight of every word. "I wanted to meet you because I see something different," Claire continued. "Something your family hasn't seen yet." Her words stirred something inside me, hope mixed with caution. I wasn't sure if I could trust her, but maybe she was the first person in a long time who saw me for who I really was. As we talked, I learned that Claire had her own struggles, pressures from her family, doubts about her own future. In many ways, we were both fighting battles no one else understood. But there was more beneath the surface. Claire hinted at a bigger opportunity, something that could change everything for my company. A partnership that would bring not just money, but respect and visibility. Yet, with that opportunity came risks. She warned me about rival companies, about people who didn't want to see a small startup rise so quickly. She hinted at corporate politics and betrayals that could undo all my hard work. Walking back home, my mind raced. The future I dreamed of was within reach, but so was the danger I'd tried so hard to avoid. That evening, I found Adrian waiting outside my door. His expression was serious. "We need to talk," he said. I invited him in, and for the first time in years, we had a real conversation. He confessed he felt lost, overshadowed by expectations and the perfect image everyone wanted him to be. He admitted that seeing me succeed, in a way he never expected, made him question everything. "I don't know what to think anymore," he said. "But maybe it's time we both figured out who we really are." His words echoed my own doubts and fears. For all our differences, maybe we were both searching for the same thing: acceptance, purpose, and the courage to be ourselves. But just as we were opening up, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message was from an unknown number, a warning about the meeting with Claire. "Be careful. Not everyone wants to see you win." The screen went dark, and a chill ran down my spine. The next few days were a whirlwind. I found myself juggling family tensions, business decisions, and the growing mystery surrounding Claire's true intentions. There were whispers in the industry about a possible takeover, about rivals trying to sabotage newcomers like me. At home, my parents kept their distance, caught between pride and disbelief. Adrian oscillated between brotherly support and frustration. And Claire, well, she remained an enigma, supportive yet guarded. One night, while working late in my apartment, I received a call that shook me to my core. It was from an old mentor, someone I trusted from the early days of my startup. "They're watching you," he warned. "Not just the competition. Someone closer than you think." I didn't know who they were, but the fear in his voice was unmistakable. I realized that the fight for my success was about more than just proving my family wrong. It was about survival in a world where trust was rare and danger lurked behind every deal. As the pieces of my life started to come together, the family doubts, the mysterious client, the corporate threats, I understood one thing clearly: this was just the beginning. The biggest challenge wasn't just to succeed in business. It was to navigate the tangled web of relationships, secrets, and betrayals that threatened to destroy everything I'd worked for. And as I looked at my phone again, the unknown caller ID flashing on the screen, I knew I was running out of time. Who could I trust? What was waiting for me on the other side of the meeting? And was I ready to face the consequences of finally stepping into the light? The answers were hidden in the shadows, and every step forward seemed to pull me deeper into the unknown. But I had no choice. I had to keep moving. Because sometimes, The only way to prove you're not a failure is to risk everything and show the world who you really are. The days that followed felt like walking a tightrope stretched over a dark abyss. Every call, every message, every glance from someone in my circle seemed charged with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. The warning from my mentor echoed louder in my mind. They're watching you. But who exactly were they? And what did they want? Claire had been my closest ally in the last few weeks, but even with her, something felt off. She was supportive, yes, encouraging me to push forward, to trust her, but there were moments when her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. When I asked too many questions, she changed the subject or gave answers just vague enough to raise more doubts. Still, I needed her. Her connections, the opportunities she opened, it all felt like a lifeline. The business was growing faster than I expected. Investors were calling, interest from bigger companies was buzzing. But along with the growth came pressure from competitors trying to undercut us, from people I once trusted turning cold, and from my own family, who seemed more divided than ever. Adrian had started pulling away, caught in his own battles. Sometimes he looked at me with a strange mix of admiration and jealousy. Other times I caught him whispering on the phone, then quickly hanging up when I entered the room. I wanted to ask what was going on, but the words got stuck in my throat. One evening, I stayed late at the office, the city lights flickering outside like distant promises. My phone buzzed, another unknown number. I debated ignoring it but answered. The voice on the other end was low, almost a whisper. Stop digging. Some things are better left buried. Before I could respond, the call ended. My hands trembled. Was this a threat? A warning? I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet more determined than ever. This was bigger than family drama or proving myself. It was a battle I couldn't afford to lose. The following day, Claire invited me to a high-profile networking event. It was the kind of place I had only dreamed of, glittering lights, sharp suits, influential people. She introduced me as the visionary CEO behind the fastest-growing tech startup. For a moment, I felt like I belonged. But beneath the surface, the tension was thick. Adrian was there too, with his fiancée. Their eyes met mine across the room, a silent war of emotions. I caught Adrian's glance linger longer than usual, a flash of regret or maybe recognition of what I'd become. Suddenly, a man approached Claire, his expression sharp and cold. They spoke quietly but intensely. I watched as Claire's face tightened, and she excused herself. Left alone, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw someone I hadn't expected, an old friend from my startup days. He looked nervous. There's something you need to know, he said hurriedly. There are people trying to sabotage your company from within. My heart pounded. Sabotage? Betrayal? The walls I'd built to protect my success suddenly seemed fragile. Back at home that night, the family atmosphere was tense. My parents tried to act normal, but I could see the worry in their eyes. Adrian avoided me entirely. Claire called again, insisting on a private meeting. I agreed, desperate for answers. We met at a quiet park bench, shadows stretching long in the fading light. She looked serious. There's a mole in your company, she said softly. Someone feeding information to your rivals. We have to find out who before it's too late. Her words hit me like a punch. The thought of betrayal from within was almost unbearable. I thought of all the late nights, the sacrifices, the trust I'd placed in my team. I don't know who to trust anymore, I confessed. Claire reached out, squeezing my hand. You have me. And we'll get through this. But just then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, face draining of color. They're closer than we thought. The next days blurred into a tense whirlwind of investigations, secret meetings, and sleepless nights. Every phone call, every email, every interaction felt like a potential trap. My relationships frayed under the weight of suspicion. I caught myself questioning even Adrian, the brother I once knew. One night, I overheard a whispered conversation between two colleagues, voices low and urgent. The words, takeover, and blackmail, sent chills down my spine. As I pieced the puzzle together, the full scope of the danger became clear. This was no ordinary corporate battle. Someone was trying to destroy me, to erase everything I'd fought for. And then came the call that shattered the fragile peace. Claire's voice was panicked. "They know where you are. You need to be careful. Meet me tomorrow morning. I have a plan." That night, sleep was impossible. Every creak, every shadow in my apartment felt like a threat. I kept replaying every conversation, every glance, searching for clues I might have missed. I thought about my parents, their disappointment and hidden fears. About Adrian, caught between loyalty and doubt. About Claire, the one person who had given me hope but whose own secrets now seemed tangled with danger. The next morning, I arrived early at the meeting spot, a quiet cafe far from prying eyes. Claire was already there, her face pale but determined. "We have to move fast," she said. "The people after you are ruthless. They'll stop at nothing." Just as we stood to leave, my phone buzzed again. A text message from an unknown number. "Trust no one." A cold wave of fear washed over me. Who was behind the threats? Was it someone in my family? A rival company? Or worse, someone I had trusted? The answers were close, but so was the danger. Every step forward pulled me deeper into a game of shadows where the stakes were my future, my family, and my very survival. And as Claire and I walked out into the uncertain morning light, I knew the moment of truth was almost here. The biggest challenge was about to come, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for what lay ahead. The morning sun barely filtered through the thick clouds as Claire and I stepped out of the cafe. Her words still echoed in my mind. "They'll stop at nothing." I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. Every shadow around us seemed alive, watching, waiting. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to break wide open. We moved quickly but cautiously through the streets. Claire's phone buzzed again, a quick, cryptic message that made her frown. "Change of plans?" she whispered. "We can't trust anyone, not even those we think are allies." Her words hit me hard. How deep did this go? I thought of Adrian and my parents, the complicated layers of loyalty and betrayal between us. Was one of them involved? Or was this a completely different enemy lurking in the dark? We agreed to meet later that day with a private investigator Claire had been working with, someone who might have answers. But as I tried to focus on the day ahead, my mind spun with questions I didn't want to ask aloud. At work, the atmosphere had shifted. The tension was almost unbearable. Employees glanced nervously over their shoulders. Whispers filled the hallways like a growing storm. Every email, every meeting felt like a trap. I was no longer just the CEO. I was a target. That afternoon, just as I was about to leave for the meeting with Claire and the investigator, a knock on my office door startled me. It was Adrian. His face was serious, but there was something in his eyes, something I couldn't read. "We need to talk," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. My heart raced. This was unexpected. After weeks of silence, he was here. But was he here to help, or to hurt? He closed the door behind him and took a deep breath. "I know what's been going on," he said quietly. "And I'm scared." His words confused me. "What do you mean? What do you know?" Adrian hesitated, then lowered his voice. "I've been investigating too. But what I found, it's worse than we thought." I leaned forward, desperate for answers. "There's someone in our family working with the people trying to take you down. Someone you would never expect." A cold shiver ran down my spine. Family betrayal was a theme I'd tried to avoid thinking about, but now it stared me in the face. "Who?" I demanded. Adrian's eyes flickered with pain. "I can't say yet. Not until I'm sure. But they've been manipulating things behind the scenes, feeding false information, turning us against each other." I felt like the ground beneath me was cracking open. The enemy was closer than I had imagined. The very people I was supposed to trust were the ones pulling the strings. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message. This time, It was from an unknown number again. Look to your left. The truth is closer than you think. I turned abruptly, and froze. Standing in the doorway was Claire. But she wasn't alone. Behind her was a man I didn't recognize, sharp-eyed and calm, carrying an air of authority. Meet Alex, Claire said. Our private investigator. Alex stepped forward, holding a folder thick with papers. I've uncovered some things that will change everything, he said. The room seemed to shrink as he opened the folder, revealing photos, emails, and financial records. The evidence pointed to a web of deception tangled around my company and my family. One email showed secret meetings between a trusted senior manager and a rival company's executives. Another revealed unauthorized transfers of company funds. But the most shocking detail was a recorded phone call between my own father and a competitor's CEO. The betrayal was real. The stakes were higher than I ever imagined. My mind raced. How long had my family known? Were my parents protecting secrets, or were they part of the conspiracy? Claire's voice cut through my thoughts. There's more. The fiancée, Adrian's fiancée, she's not who she says she is. I stared at her in disbelief. This was the woman who once looked at me in disbelief when I was called the CEO. Now, she was part of the puzzle. Alex handed me a photo. It was her, in a secret meeting with another suspicious figure. I felt a surge of anger and confusion. Was she playing both sides? Was she using Adrian to get to me? Adrian's face darkened. I never wanted to believe it. But things don't add up anymore. I clenched my fists. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. Suddenly my phone rang. I glanced at the screen, my mother. Mom? I answered, voice trembling. Her voice was shaky, almost fearful. You need to be careful. There's more going on than you know. Don't trust anyone, not even me. Before I could ask what she meant, the line went dead. A cold dread filled me. My own mother was warning me, yet hinting at secrets she couldn't, or wouldn't, reveal. Claire looked at me, her eyes serious. This is bigger than just business or family drama. It's about power, control, and survival. I felt the weight of the words settle deep in my chest. The next days were a whirlwind. Meetings with lawyers, emergency board sessions, and constant security checks. I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house, every message on my phone, felt like a warning, or a trap. Adrian kept trying to reach out, but I was torn between wanting to trust him and fearing he was part of the deception. Claire and Alex worked tirelessly, digging deeper into the web of lies. But every step closer to the truth seemed to bring more danger. One night, as I was leaving the office, I noticed a shadow lurking near the parking lot. My heart pounded. I quickened my pace, but the figure followed. I turned, ready to confront whoever was there, only to find myself face to face with someone I never expected. Why are you doing this? I demanded, my voice shaking. The person smiled coldly. Because you're a threat. Because you took what should have been mine. The name they whispered sent shockwaves through me, a secret from my past I had buried deep, now crashing back with a vengeance. As the confrontation escalated, I realized the fight for my company, and my life, was far from over. The betrayal, the secrets, the lies, they were all pieces of a puzzle I had yet to solve. And as the night swallowed us whole, I knew one thing for sure, the final battle was about to begin, and there was no turning back. The cold night air pressed heavily against my skin as I faced the person who had haunted my every step for weeks. The name they had whispered, the one I thought was buried forever, was real, alive, and more dangerous than I ever imagined. My breath caught, and for a moment the world seemed to stop. I never wanted it to come to this, the figure said, voice low and sharp. But you left me no choice. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Why? Why betray me, betray our family? We could have fixed this together. A bitter laugh escaped their lips. Fix? You think I wanted your life? I wanted what was rightfully mine. You stole everything from me, opportunities, respect, even your parents' love. Now I'm taking it back. The revelation hit me like a punch. It wasn't just a business rivalry or a family conflict. It was personal. Deeply personal. The shadows of childhood resentment, the quiet battles no one spoke about, the silent wars for approval, they had all boiled over into this moment. Before I could respond, my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a message from Claire. Police are on their way. Stay calm. I nodded silently, knowing this confrontation had to end now. I'm done running, I said firmly. If you want to fight, let's settle this. But it ends here. The person's eyes flashed with something like respect, maybe even relief. I was hoping you'd say that. Just then, the sound of sirens pierced the night. The tension broke, and the figure stepped back into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they had come. I was left standing alone, the weight of the past heavy on my shoulders. The police arrived moments later, and with Claire and Alex by my side, I gave my statement. The investigation quickly uncovered evidence that confirmed the person's involvement in the sabotage, the leaks, and the manipulation. What shocked everyone was the extent of the deception. It wasn't just personal revenge, but a carefully planned attempt to destroy me and seize control of the company. In the days that followed, my relationship with Adrian became clearer. Despite the betrayals around us, Adrian stood by me, confessing that he had suspected his fiancée's true intentions for some time. She had been manipulating him as well, using their relationship to get closer to me. The painful truth was hard to swallow, but it gave me a strange sense of relief. At least I knew who my real allies were. My parents, too, finally opened up. The warnings they had given were out of fear, not distrust. They had tried to protect me from the truth, not knowing how deep the betrayal ran. I realized that even in the darkest moments, family could be complicated, flawed, but still a source of strength. As I reclaimed my position as CEO, the company slowly began to heal. We worked tirelessly to rebuild trust within the team, implementing new safeguards and transparency. The experience had changed me, not just as a leader, but as a person. I was no longer the failure my parents once doubted. I was someone who had survived betrayal, stood up to enemies, and emerged stronger. But just when I thought the worst was behind me, another message arrived. This time, no number, no sender, just a simple text that read, "You're stronger than I expected. But the game isn't over." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The shadows of the past still lingered, and the fight for everything I had built was far from finished. The truth was, the story I thought I was living was only the beginning. And somewhere, hidden in the darkness, the next challenge was already waiting. The message haunted me for days. "You're stronger than I expected. But the game isn't over." Who was behind it? Another enemy? Or someone I once trusted? The uncertainty was unsettling, but it also reminded me how far I had come. I wasn't the scared, uncertain person my parents once thought I was. I had proven myself, not just to them, but to myself. Slowly, life began to settle. The company grew stronger, and the wounds left by betrayal started to heal. I made it a point to surround myself with people who genuinely cared, not those driven by greed or envy. Claire stayed close, her friendship a steady anchor. Alex, my brother, apologized for not seeing the signs earlier. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but we were learning to trust each other again. One afternoon, my parents invited me for coffee. Their eyes held a mixture of pride and regret. "We were wrong," my father said quietly. "We judged you too harshly. You've done what we never thought possible." I smiled, feeling a weight lift. "I just wanted you to believe in me." My mother reached out, holding my hand. "We do now. And we're sorry it took so long." It was a moment I had dreamed about, a family healing after years of doubt and misunderstanding. The past couldn't be erased, but it didn't have to define us anymore. As for Adrian and Claire, their roles in my life shifted. Adrian, once torn by his fiancée's lies, began to understand what true loyalty meant. Claire, with her unwavering support, became not just a friend but a trusted partner in both life and work. Together, we navigated the challenges of rebuilding the company culture, making it stronger and more transparent. I learned that success wasn't just about titles or money. It was about integrity, resilience, and the courage to face hard truths. The label of failure my parents once used no longer mattered. I was more than that. I was someone who rose from the ashes, stronger and wiser. The lessons I learned shaped how I led the company. I encouraged open communication, promoted fairness, and valued every team member's voice. It wasn't easy, but the results spoke for themselves. The company flourished not only in profits but in spirit. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about the message, the warning that the game wasn't over. Maybe it wasn't. But I was ready. I had faced my fears, uncovered the truth, and reclaimed my life. More importantly, I had found myself. And as I looked toward the future, I knew one thing for sure: no matter what came next, I wouldn't let anyone else write my story. I was the CEO of my own life now, and that was a title I would never give up. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt underestimated or doubted, remember this: you have the strength to prove them wrong. Sometimes, the biggest failures lead to the greatest successes. Keep believing in yourself, and never stop fighting for what you deserve.